What's up guys, Noah Sanford here, hanging out in my garage right now. I apologize in advance for the wind noise you might hear throughout the video. It's completely ripping outside. Not a good day for fishing on Thursday, but that's why we're talking about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So jumping into things as usual. Let's talk about the wind conditions on Friday. Friday looks pretty tough, to be honest. If you were to go out, I'd probably stick to that morning to midday slot. The afternoon is starting to look a little bit breezy. Saturday looks all right. It looks pretty flat all day Saturday, and Sunday should be good too. So if you're gonna go out, I'd probably stick to Saturday or Sunday. Talking about water temps, this last week I've seen the water temps kind of between like 56 to 57 and a half. The water temps unfortunately have dropped back down because if you guys are in Vegas, you'll know that we've had quite a cold front roll through the last week or so. So we've had a lot of cold nights, a lot of colder days, overcast days with a lot of rain and some wind as well. So that's why those temps are dropping back down again, unfortunately. So be prepared for that when you go out this week. Really important point to talk about when it comes to those water temps is that the couple of bedfish that I found this last week or so have officially dispersed and disappeared. So I'm not finding any bedfish anymore. I was out just yesterday and I found a couple of abandoned beds, but no bass to be seen. So that goes to show you guys that those bass that were once up there, those early spawners that went up when we were having those couple warm weeks, they've officially disappeared since we've gotten this cold front. So I think it's gonna take at least another week or two for those bass to show up. Maybe it might even take until the beginning of April for them to really show back up on those beds and lock in on those beds. The reason for that is because they like that consistent warm weather. And if they're barely coming up on those beds and it gets cold really fast, they're gonna skedaddle. They're not gonna stay on those beds anymore. So that's gonna bring me in to where I've been catching these fish. So let's go ahead and talk about the depth range and the types of areas I've been catching these fish. So most of the depth range I've been catching these fish in have been kind of between like 25 to 30 and even 35 feet of water. And so reason for that is because those big females, are still out deep and they're still looking for big meals out in that deep water. I'm gonna drop a picture in right here. This is a guy that I took out yesterday who found me online and booked a charter with me from Wisconsin. And so this guy really wanted to go out targeting some of those bigger female bass. You can see in this picture right here, he caught an absolute stud. So this was a 4.2 pound, big fat largemouth. And it was by far one of the biggest fish we've hooked in a while with a customer out here in Lake Mead. For those of you who aren't familiar with Lake Mead, we don't get very big bass out here. Anything 3 pounds and up is a pretty dang good fish, and 4 pounds and up is a really solid bass. And so this guy was totally stoked to get this fish to the boat. Fought it on 5-pound test, barely got it to the boat, and when we got it in, finally, we were so stoked. It was a really cool experience. But he hooked that fish in probably about 25 feet of water, and that goes to show you guys that those big female bass are still out deep. Yeah, you might find a fluke and get one up shallow every once in a while, but for the most part, those big females are still gonna be out in that deep water looking for big meals. So moving me into my last point, what I've been catching these bass on, it's been a kind of a mix. It's kind of been all across the board. I've caught a lot on finesse baits, drop shot, Ned rig, that kind of stuff, but I've also caught quite a few on bigger presentations like a jig, a bigger worm, a 6-7 inch worm, something like that. So it's really been kind of all across the board. So when it comes to what to throw right now, guys, I don't think what you're throwing is more important as long as you're sticking in those correct areas and depth ranges. So target those steeper areas or the middles of coves and those offshore main lake points and fish in that 25 to 35 foot range. And the biggest thing is keeping your bait on the bottom and working it slow. So those big females are out deep. They're rooting around on the bottom for stuff like crawdads and other things down deep that they can eat, and they want that slow presentation. It's funny because I tell all my customers all the time, once you think you're working your bait slow enough, work it even slower. Because half the time my customers get bit out on the water, they'll throw their bait out, they'll put their rod down, go eat a sandwich, they'll come back and they have a fish on. Or they'll throw their bait out, they get a phone call, they pick up the phone call, they just hold their rod in their hand, dead sticking that bait for 2 minutes, they put the phone back down, what do you know? There's a fish on. So that goes to show you guys, a majority of these bass like that presentation. Very slow, if not dead stick. So make that bait look like it's just barely alive down on the bottom, and that's probably how you're gonna get those big bites like this guy did the other day. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. The channel continues to grow. I'm very grateful for all of your guys' support. Hit that like button and leave a comment down below. My name's Noah Sanford. We'll see you guys out on the water.